28th of Evening Star, 4E201, Day 134. Last night was brutal. We were chilled to the bone, even in our fur clothing, bedrolls, and tent with a warm fire nearby. Fortunately, the blizzard dissolved by morning into light snow. We took some time to have a warm breakfast before getting back on the road. We traveled eastward as far as we could along the road, then turned back when we found the path barred with no way around. Instead, we scouted along the coast and out onto the ice floes, watching carefully to make sure we didn't fall through. We found some treasure washed up along the shore, and then an abandoned camp on one of the islands. There was a journal at the camp, which indicated that it belonged to fishermen. An overturned boat out in the water suggests that they did not meet a happy fate. Exploring around the area, we discovered the wreck of the Winter War. Some bandits had made a sort of home there, and we defeated them. I seem to recall that someone had asked us to kill the bandit chief there, but I cannot remember who. I reviewed my notes, but apparently had not written it down. Since my decision to begin championing the people, I've collected too many quests to keep track of. Next, we crossed over to the northern shore and began scouting just east of Windhelm. Merciful Mara, it was cold. While looking for a suitable place to make camp, we came across a wisp mother at some unnamed ruins. She put us through our paces, but we defeated her, much more easily than those we'd encountered before. There was also a makeshift shrine to Arche among the ruins. We pitched our tent next to the shrine, made some hot soup, and huddled in our tent for the evening. Before bedding down, I studied another spell book. I still have several weighing down my backpack, and am keen to learn all of their secrets. 29th of Evening Star, 4E201, Day 135. The day dawned bright and clear. I hoped the weather would hold so we could complete our survey of this stretch quickly. Although the snow was beautiful, I really didn't care for the frigid temperatures. In the morning light, we spotted a Nordic ruin across the river that we missed during our travels yesterday. We rode the horses over to explore, crossing the ice since it appeared thick enough to hold. Cinnamon slipped as we neared the shore, and we both plunged into the icy water. I started to panic, but we were lucky. The shore was near enough that we reached it before going numb. But being wet in the frosty air was dangerous, and my limbs began to slow and tingle. The nearest shelter was the ruin, Yingle Barrow, so we ducked inside to get out of the wind. Inside, there were blazing braziers, yet no sign of whoever had lit them. We kept a wary eye out in case they came back. However, there were no interruptions. We stayed just until we dried off and were warmed back up. With that excitement behind us, we left the barrow to cross back over the river when another raging snowstorm started. So much for the clear, beautiful day. Fortunately, we made it back to our camp without further incident. We snugged up in the tent again to wait out the storm. I pulled out more spellbooks to study and made good progress. At this rate, I'm going to run out of new spells to learn. 30th of Evening Star, 4E201, Day 136. Today dawned clear and bright again. We had a quick breakfast and then began our survey. It seems that we must take quick advantage of clear weather if we want to get this done. Our first discovery of the day was another Nordic ruin, Snowvale Sanctum. The door was sealed tight, though, so we could not explore inside. Aside from the main structure, The ruins consisted of several sets of standing stones off to one side of the door. I wonder what they were used for. They must have been significant, but sadly, their purpose seemed lost to the passage of time. From the top plateau of Snowvale Sanctum, there was a clear view of the whole area. We could see more ruins in the distance, located on various islands out in the sea. While I wanted to explore and chart them, I did not know how we could safely cross the icy waters. Just up the shore, through a chasm in the ice, we found a lower entrance to Snowvale Sanctum. That door was open, however, there was a barred gate inside. We could find no way to open it, and so we had to leave with our curiosity unsatisfied. In a small barrow, mostly buried in the snow, called the Journeyman's Nook, we came across a young Bosmer woman being accosted by a bandit marauder. Her guard, supposedly a competent mage from Winterhold, had already been killed. I quickly took care of the bandit, for which the woman was grateful, but we were unable to convince her to leave the barrow, as she insisted it was the perfect place to conduct uninterrupted research. She had a private alchemy lab all set up, with a warm fire and plush pile of furs to sleep on. I wished her the best, and we continued on our way. Farther north, we came upon an old campsite. There were 2 intact tents, complete with bedrolls, and a fire pit ready to be used. On one of the bedrolls, there were skeletal remains, but no sign of what led to the traveler's demise. May he or she rest with Arche. We looted everything useful and continued on our way. Next, we scouted the high ground east of the road. We didn't find anything of particular interest and found ourselves back in Winterhold just as a snowstorm hit. While lunching at the Frozen Hearth Inn, I recalled that the flighty court wizard in Riften mentioned losing an item there. So I asked the barkeep if a mage named Willandria had come through. With a long-suffering look, he sighed and pointed to his satchel on a nearby shelf. I chuckled and simply nodded my agreement before collecting the bag. The storm didn't seem too bad, so we headed back out for a while. Not far from town, there was a circular stone platform along one of the cliffs. I didn't notice there were several frost rune traps hidden underneath the layer of snow, and ended up taking a fair bit of damage when I dismounted to explore. After healing myself and making sure all the runes had been detonated, I looted some alchemy reagents that had been left there. At the bottom of a nearby ravine, we found the remains of 2 bodies. One appeared to have been caught in a bear trap, and more alchemical reagents. I wonder if these were the mages responsible for the frost runes. We continued riding along the coastline just below the college, and there was a narrow stretch of water covered with ice solid enough for us to cross. We followed a path up to the top of the large snowy island and found Sky Temple ruins, another ancient Nordic site. Several skeletal warriors were guarding it. These we dispatched with ease. We declined to enter and explore, since I was eager to complete our survey of the area. It was too cold to tarry. The water was shallow enough for us to cross to the island immediately north as well. We did not find anything of interest there except some wolves, horkers, and snow bears. The islands farther north were blocked by huge walls of ice, so we could not explore further in that direction. Instead, we made our way back to the first island and found a way to cross over the ice to investigate a series of small islands just east of the college. Night began to fall before we completed scouting. Uthgerd spotted a sheltered nook in one of the icy cliffs, and we made camp there, out of the bone-chilling wind. 31st of Evening Star, 4E201, day 137. We awoke to a bright, crisp morning. I made some cabbage soup to warm us up before embarking on our mission to explore the remaining islands in the area. Atop one of the larger islands, we found a standing stone called the Serpent Stone. It was, somewhat appropriately, I thought, guarded by an ice wraith. I would have left it alone, but the creature attacked, and so we put it down quickly. From that vantage point, I noticed the hull of a ship run aground to the southwest and decided to check it out. It turned out to be the wreck of a ship called the Pride of Tel Voss, and it was being guarded by a group of bandits. After clearing them out, we looted their camp and searched the remains of the ship to see if any treasure had been overlooked. Inside a waterlogged trunk, we found the journal of one Limdren Telvanni. It told the sad tale of the fall of House Telvanni, a once proud, noble Dunmer family. It also named the sole living heir as Brandel, Limdren's only child. Inside the cover of the book was an inscription from the family's wet nurse, Hidira Olin, who had been aboard the Pride of Tel Voss in search of the child. I immediately thought of the Dunmer in Riften, Brand Shea, who was looking for clues about his identity. Could this be related? I resolved to show him the book next time we were there to see what he could make of it. With our exploration of the small islands complete, we crossed back over the shallows to survey the coastline between Winterhold and Windhelm. Up one of the ravines in the ice, I was attacked by a wisp mother. She did me little harm, thanks to my spell resistances, and I was able to defeat her without much trouble. Uthgerd and Lola didn't even have to help. Nearby, we found some treasure inside a cave carved into the ice. The cave was guarded by 3 Horkers, but they posed no problem. In fact, they were kind enough to provide us meat for dinner. There were stones marking the entrance to Bleak Coast Cave on the large island southeast of the shipwreck. Outside, there were bloodstains and human bones. Whatever was inside did not seem to be friendly. Sure enough, the cave was inhabited by 4 frost trolls. We took care of them, not wanting to leave the creatures to prey on any more travelers. We found nothing more on the islands, but we did find a hunter's camp along the shore. There was a tent with a bedroll, Horker tusks, meat that had been well preserved by the cold, and a horse that looked malnourished. I could not find any sign of the owner. We decided to camp there and see if he or she returned by morning. First of Morning Star, 4E202, day 138. It is a new year. Praise to the divines for seeing us through to another turning. I wished we could partake in a celebration of the New Life Festival, but our icy cave was far from civilization. Nobody had showed up at the camp during the night. I truly believed it had been abandoned, and I couldn't leave the horse there to starve. As my first good deed of the year, I adopted the poor slat-ribbed thing. I've named her Winter Wisp for her dappled gray coat. Farther along the shore, I think we found the hunters from the camp, or rather, their bodies. It looked like they tried to take on a large male Horker that was too much for them. I checked their pockets to see if there was any information to identify the men. There wasn't, but one was carrying a treasure map. The map marks 2 locations, one by a mill and one by an ornate bridge. Neither looks familiar, but I will keep an eye out. We finished scouting the shoreline and ended up back in Windhelm at midday. I puzzled over the map while eating lunch at Candlehearth Hall. Comparing it to my own map, I decided that one of the locations might be close to Angus Mill, just outside Windhelm. Uthgerd agreed, so we planned to go check it out as soon as we finished our meal. It turned out to be all for naught. I checked in the river, both up and downstream from the mill, and could not find anything resembling a treasure. All I got for my effort was soaked and shivering. Either this was the wrong location, or else the treasure was hidden too well for my eyes. After warming and drying off at the mill, we doubled back across the bridge to begin scouting the area southwest of Windhelm. The first location we discovered was Uttering Hills Cave. Bandits had made it their hideout, but we took care of them all. Up the cliffs, we found an overhang serving as a troll den. A frost troll had been living there, but we defeated the creature when it lumbered out to greet us. Farther along, we came upon a ruined tower called Gallows Rock. It seemed abandoned, except there were campfires burning. There was a noose hanging off one of the cliffs by the tower's entrance. It reminded me of the treasure map I'd picked up some months ago. I pulled the map out of my pack, and sure enough, it matched. There was even a chest below the cliff, just as the map indicated. While we were going through the chest, 2 bandits came charging out of the woods and attacked us. We dispatched them. However, upon inspection of the bodies, they did not appear to be the usual run of bandits. Their gear was too nice and too well maintained. One of them even had a silver sword. Upon further investigation of the camp, we concluded that they were werewolf hunters. There were wolf heads mounted in warning, or as trophies of their kills, and I've heard that silver weapons are particularly effective against these creatures. We were attacked, completely unprovoked, by every hunter we met while exploring the tower. They would not even let me approach to speak. I still do not understand why we seem to inspire such aggression. Perhaps they thought we might be werewolves? It was a ridiculous notion. Even if I believed in such creatures, I had spent enough time with Uthgerd to be assured that neither of us could be one. In the bowels of the tower, we found irrefutable evidence that these men were indeed werewolf hunters. To my surprise, we also found irrefutable evidence that the creatures actually exist. There were prison cells, mostly containing the corpses of expired werewolves. However, locked in one cell, we found a specimen still alive. I was uncertain what to do with it. After all, it might still have retained some shred of humanity. But when I unlocked the cage, the werewolf attacked us without hesitation. We had no choice but to kill it. I guess the enemy of my enemy is not actually my friend. After the fight, we both quaffed a potion of cure disease for good measure. Neither of us had any desire to be afflicted with that particular condition. Thinking back on the whole encounter, something didn't quite add up. The werewolf we found was obviously a monster that needed to be put down. But I was not at all convinced the Silver Hand Warriors, as I learned they call themselves, were much better. We had found evidence of atrocities being committed by the Silver Hand, including human experimentation and unrelenting torture. Added to the fact that they attacked us without even attempting conversation first, it seemed to me that their zealotry needed to be stopped as much as the werewolves themselves. They were all monsters, as far as I was concerned.